Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user GlimmerGleam56. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my brother after he stole from me? Me, 19 female, and my brother, 17 male, have never really gotten along. He's always been kinda reckless, but lately he's been getting worse. Sneaking out, lying, and now stealing. A few days ago, I noticed some money missing from my room. I don't keep a ton of cash, but I had about $300 saved up for something important. Gone. At first I thought I misplaced it, but then I checked my brother's room, and guess what? Found some of my bills crumpled up in his drawer. I confronted him, and he straight up denied it. Even when I showed him the money, he said he found it outside. Like, bro, be serious. I told my parents expecting them to back me up, but they brushed it off like, he's just a kid, he probably needed it for something. That pissed me off. So I told my parents either he gives it back or I called the cops. They didn't take me seriously, so I actually did it. Not to get him arrested or anything, just to scare him. The cops came, talked to him, and made him give me the money back. They didn't charge him, just gave him a warning. Now my family is mad at me, saying I took it too far and should have just let my parents handle it. But they weren't doing anything, and I'm tired of him getting away with stuff. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on my own brother? Of course you're not the a-hole, OP. Your brother stole from you. That's when you do when somebody steals from you. You call the cops. And you are absolutely right. Your parents brushed you off, so you had to call the cops. If they weren't doing anything about it, somebody should have, and you did the right thing. Your brother is the end result of crappy parenting. Your parents suck at that. Every time I hear somebody complaining about how this kid turned out bad or whatever, look, 95% of the times it's the parents' fault. The other 5%, sociopaths or psychopaths, and that's just nature. And this is why it's my personal opinion that parenting is one of the most important jobs a human being can have, because this is the make it or break it of life. You either raise up a good person or you don't. I think it's how we say in Chile, no le echáis la culpa al chancho, sino al que le da el afrecho, which basically translates to, you don't blame the pig, you blame the person that feeds it. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Radical Damage says, not the a-hole, but your brother and your parents are. For every action, there is a reaction. He needs to learn that there are consequences for bad behavior. Had your parents stepped up and put in adult underwear and made him give it back, the police would not have been involved. What it comes down to is he stole from you and your parents did nothing, which is equally as wrong as him stealing in the first place. Blunt and Feisty says, not the a-hole. At the very least, you set a precedent that you are not going to tolerate that behavior from them. You made it clear that this is a hard boundary that you will not allow. That's absolutely necessary. But more so, you also did two important things. First, you alerted the police to a potential troublemaker if and when he starts getting into trouble with the law. They are aware of his actions at home. Second, you taught him a lesson that he committed a crime and that he is not above the law, and if he continues to commit crimes, he will be arrested and charged with the crimes. You let him go this time because you chose not to press charges. You didn't have to do that. Tell your parents and your brother that they are wrong. You're not apologetic or remorseful, that you have every right to report theft, that they had an opportunity to make it right and chose to aid him in getting away with theft, which is also a crime. Tell them that they all need to hold themselves accountable for their actions and the outcome because they made their choices to break the law. Going forward, as unfair as it is, you need to take precautions to prevent this from occurring again by making sure you don't leave anything of value at home. Don't leave out information or access to your accounts. I understand that at 19, you may not be able to afford moving out yet, but if you can, that may be the best option to protect yourself from them. Self-Psycho says, not the a-hole. If they want to raise a criminal, they can keep him the hell away from you. If knowing his actions have consequences is a bad thing, it is surprising that you didn't turn out to be a petty theft too with such bad parenting. OP's comment. Wild how I'm the bad guy for expecting basic respect and not wanting my money to mysteriously disappear. Guess accountability is optional in this family. Well, no surprise, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole. So now, let's move on to the update to see how this story ends. So things have been awkward as hell at home. My parents are still acting like I'm the villain, and my brother has been giving me the silent treatment, which honestly isn't the worst thing in the world. But here's where it gets interesting. Turns out I wasn't the only one he was stealing from. A few days after everything went down, my mom pulled me aside and admitted that some of her money had gone missing too. She thought she had just misplaced it, but now she's realizing it was probably him. I didn't say I told you so, even though I really wanted to, but I just gave her a look and was like, yeah, exactly. Now, my parents are finally taking it seriously, but instead of being mad at him, they're talking about how he's just going through a phase and how they don't want to be too hard on him. Meanwhile, he's still stomping around the house acting like I ruined his life. At this point, I've just distanced myself completely. I'm keeping my door locked and not leaving anything valuable around, and honestly, counting down the days until I can move out. Didn't expect this to get so much attention, but I really appreciate all the comments. It helped me see that I wasn't overreacting, and honestly, it's been reassuring to know I wasn't crazy for standing my ground. So, do I feel bad? Nope. Do I regret it? Still no. If no one else is gonna hold him accountable, at least he knows I will. Again, I really didn't think this would blow up like it did, but glad to know I wasn't overreacting. Definitely keeping my guard up from now on. Thank you guys! Willoughby, good for you. You did the right thing and now you just need to protect yourself. The rest is up to your parents. So here's wishing you the best. Thanks for sharing and take care. Now I know that story was a bit short, so don't leave just yet because the next story has 3 updates. So let's move on with that. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user KimberRex22. Am I the a-hole for sterilizing myself against my partner's wishes? Okay Reddit, I need some unbiased outside opinions because I truly feel like I'm going crazy dealing with this situation. I, 28 female, and my partner, 28 male, have 2 children together and have been married for 8 years. For those 8 years, I've either been on birth control when we were preventing pregnancy or tracking my cycle when we were trying to conceive. Adding this to just give the community the context that reproductive responsibility has always fallen on my shoulders. Recently, we discussed the possibility of being done with children since we have our 2 and the family really feels complete. My partner is in agreement that a 3rd child is off the table for him as well. So with that, I thought, great, I can bring up sterilization for either him or I. The reason I wanted this is because I've had every form of birth control before and none of them ever left me feeling 100% okay. So I wanted to be done with birth control completely since we both agreed we're done. It's been about 3 months since I would talk about more children, so I brought up either getting a vasectomy for him or getting a salpingectomy, removing my fallopian tubes. What I thought would be a productive conversation completely blew up. He outright refused a vasectomy, and when I said I was okay with that and said I'd happily get a salpingectomy, he completely flipped his crap on me, screaming about how he forbids it from happening and he won't allow me to damage myself like that. I ended up just leaving the conversation and headed to get our kids from school, but on the way, I ended up calling my gynecologist to schedule a consultation for the salpingectomy after making sure I won't need my spouse approval. So Reddit, am I the a-hole if I go through with the sterilization against my partner's wishes? Well, OP, to your question, no, I don't think you'd be the a-hole. However, I do think that you've got a bigger issue than just going through with the surgery or not. In my opinion, this is a relationship impasse and you really need to have a very thorough and deep conversation about expectations to see if this is a sort of a deal breaker situation. I'm with you on the logic of it. If neither of you wants to have more children, then yeah, make your life easier. Either he gets a vasectomy or you get the salpingectomy, which you are absolutely okay to do. But the way you mentioned he flipped out, I get the impression that for him, it's not a logical situation, it's an emotional response. And that usually means that logic jumped out the window. So if I were you, I'd get to the root of that problem and then see what you have to do. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's check out the community comments. Lady Aim says, ew, he just tipped his hand to how he really feels and it's unsavory. You're not the a-hole and I hate that you're questioning that. Your body, your choice, you're done with kids and this is a logical step. Why does he feel this way so strongly on both of you? What has him so twisted? And OP responds, I honestly wish I knew. He seemed supportive of our friends, both men and women, who have had sterilization procedures. Desert Grimworm says, damage yourself? Does he not realize that birth control has serious side effects? I can't help think it's more than the procedures. Even though he said he's done with wanting more kids, his actions say otherwise. He's not being honest with you. If you love this man, talk to him again. Be firm. Find out what he is really not saying. He is your partner and he should be supporting you in your choice for the procedure. You should not be hiding it. I'd say he is the a-hole. And Fred Red Fui says, not the a-hole. Dude is going to try to get you pregnant again. His response is terrible and suspicious. Get it done in secret, but be ready for him to leave you if he finds out, but also be ready for baby 3 if you stay. I would be suspicious of someone who screamed at me because it speaks of uncontrollable rage. Okay, well, the community agrees that OP is not the a-hole. So now let's move on with the first of the 3 updates to see what happened next. Due to the support and advice I found on here, I managed to get the confidence and level headspace needed to try to have another conversation with my partner. After getting our children to their school and daycare for the day, I went to our local coffee shop to pick us up each a cup. I figured it can either be seen as a show of care or a peace offering. Once I got home, he was sitting at our island doom scrolling through TikTok. I think we've all been there. I decided standing across from him would be a bit of a better choice, so I gave us our respective cups and asked if I could get his attention for a conversation. Well, what I hoped would be a productive conversation turned unproductive quickly as he sighed with an eye roll and turned off his phone. I started by asking the big question of if he wanted any more children. I even suggested he shouldn't think about what I said on the subject and just tell me his feelings about more children. With that, he answered a firm no and told me, as he said before, a 3rd child is and will always be off the table. I then asked him if he had any fears or concerns about surgeries or medical procedures. He said no to this question as well. So I asked if he understood the procedure and what it entailed, and he said yes, he does, which is why he doesn't want me to get it done. In his words, I wouldn't be a woman if I got any part of my reproductive organs, what makes me a woman, removed, and he refuses to allow me down that path. I then followed up by asking about him getting a vasectomy, and he said it's pretty much the same thing for men, and he won't let anyone take away his manhood. The final question I managed to ask was, did he just expect me to be on birth control forever? And this man looked me in my face and said, it's worked so well for me already, why change things up? Guys, as I stated in my previous post, I am miserable and in debilitating pain with birth control. At the end of this, I just grabbed my coffee and went to sit on our porch just trying to wrap my head around the conversation while he sit in the house acting like nothing is wrong and we're just having a normal day off together. Alright, well, we've gotten to the root of the issue. It's ideological, and at this point I think this is kind of a deal breaker and it will get ugly for OP. So now let's move on to the next update to see what happened next. Hey Reddit, I just wanted to give a small update. I've been reading all of your comments on my last 2 posts, I swear. I appreciate all the advice and kind words, sometimes even the unkind words, because it gives me more to think about. So, to start, I've been at my sister's with the children all weekend. I told my husband that she was feeling lonely and wanted us to stay over. He believed it, as we usually try to do this once a month. I called off work Monday, so my sister and I can meet with the divorce lawyer that handled her divorce. I'm unsure if divorce will be the path I go down, but I want to get my ducks in a row before laying it all down for my husband. Also, I would like to answer some questions that I saw a lot of in my last post. 1. Yes, I still plan to go through with the sterilization. I absolutely don't want any more children, even if this ends in divorce. I plan to tell him it's getting done no matter what he says or believes. 2. There will definitely be no sex with him anymore. I feel like I lost all attraction and respect for him. 3. The children don't know what's going on. They just think it's a fun time at auntie's house. 4. Condoms are a no. I exist because of a broke condom. Laughing emoji. 5. I currently have an IUD, and while yes, it has been the best birth control I've been on, I still cannot function properly for a week out of the month due to pain, bleeding, and depressive episodes. 6. No, he hasn't done anything like this before, which is what caught me so off guard with everything. Disagreements in our relationship have, up until now, been able to be discussed and compromised on. 7. We grew up in a deep Catholic community, but fell away from the church years ago. Alright, well, OP is taking action, so let's not waste any time and move on to the final update to see how this story ends. So, I would like to start off by saying thank you everyone for the amazing support I've received throughout the comments and messages. I know I haven't replied in a while, but I have been reading it all. Heart. Now, to start off, I'll update everyone on the meeting with the lawyer. I was able to talk through my options as well as what legally would be my husband's and what legally would be mine. I know my next step of things would lead to divorce, and I feel confident in taking those steps if needed. After the meeting, I went back home and got settled back in. I ended up just doing normal tasks until the kids got home, and when my husband got home, I suggested getting the kids to bed early so we can talk. So we did just that. He ended up starting the conversation by saying if I plan to get the sterilization, then he wants a divorce because he can't be with someone who doesn't share his same values. At that moment, I knew this was it for us, so I informed him of my consultation this week for the surgery and my intention to go through with it no matter what. There was honestly a lot of back and forth. I want to say it lasted for 3 hours before he said he's done and left the house. Honestly, this topic was never brought up. We discussed kids before marriage, but I didn't think I'd ever need to bring up sterilization since 8+ years ago it wasn't something I thought of. Anyway, he's been staying at his mom's and hasn't really asked about the children staying with him. I have offered per the suggestion of my lawyer, but to no avail. Currently, I'm getting a legal separation agreement written up, so hopefully start the divorce process peacefully or as peacefully as possible. I haven't mentioned meeting with a lawyer yet. I didn't want to throw any gas onto the already lit fire, especially with the kids home. His mom thinks we can still work it out, and his dad seems to be staying out of it from what I'm understanding. Also, I've already been keeping communications through text only, but I'll definitely have someone with me if we meet. I know he plans to come this weekend to get some things, but my sister has been staying with me, so she'll be here. The kids ask about him, but I just keep telling them that he's helping grandma for a bit. I'm not sure how to tell him he won't be back. Thankfully, my therapist suggested a children's therapist to me, so I plan to set them an appointment soon. I'm honestly not too sure where everything went wrong for us. I always felt like we had true love, but maybe I was just naive to any of the other signs. Well, OP, I think you're making the right decision for you and for your children. So here's wishing you the best in the future. Thanks so much for sharing and take care. And now let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user RapidRaythian. Wipe my computer? Sure thing. You didn't say anything about saving the important information on it first. This malicious compliance was committed many years ago by my friend, we'll call her Samantha, who worked and still works as an accountant. She wasn't a manager or anything, but she had been there for more than 5 years and basically knew so much about how the place ran that she really was a manager in all but title. Samantha was told that she would be stepping down to a lower position and therefore lower pay for operational and restructuring reasons, but it was really so that the boss's daughter could replace her. The boss also told her that she would be responsible for training his daughter, who not only had no accounting qualifications, but had never even held so much as a fast food or retail job. The boss estimated it would take several months to train her. What went unsaid was the fact Samantha would inevitably be given the boot altogether as soon as her replacement was somewhat competent, so at this point she knew her days were numbered. Samantha quite rightly said no, if she needs that much training, she's not fit for the job. So the boss made life miserable for a few months until she had to quit for her own well-being, which worked out for the best as she had a new job in less than a fortnight. The day she left, the boss stood over her with his daughter, claiming that she was the new supervisor to add insult to injury, and demanded she wipe her company computer. Still having some sense of morality, even though this boss didn't deserve it, Samantha asked if he was sure and that he might want to take some backups from it first. Before she could finish speaking, he yelled to her, "Just get on with it and wipe it clean." She shrugged and did as she was told. What the boss didn't realize, or had forgotten, was he had instructed Samantha to create social media accounts, pages on various platforms for their accounting company's branch several years earlier, but that because the boss was anal and paranoid and didn't want them linked to any of their official company emails for some reason, he'd told her to set them up with her own email account and manage their social media promotion posts in her own name. Not wanting to do that, she created a new email account through Outlook or whatever and used that instead to set up the accounts on Facebook, Instagram, etc. Boss called her in a panic about a week after Samantha had quit because his daughter had tried to access the Facebook account so they could post some advertising in the lead up to tax time, but couldn't even log in. Samantha said she no longer had the details of the login credentials and passwords and couldn't help him. He said, "You must have written them down somewhere." She replied, "Yes, they were in the notepad document on the desktop of my computer, the computer that had been wiped the day she left the company." Opie's edit. For the comments asking for further fallout, apparently after a few months with the boss's daughters supervising, he was forced to hire someone else to do the job because, as Samantha had tried to tell him, his daughter was woefully inadequate for the position and had no idea what she was doing. Not sure if there were any tangible consequences for that aside from the hassle and expense of hiring someone new, but at the very least, it would have been inconvenient for him. Ah, yes, nepotism. It always works out, doesn't it? Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out, so here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later, and also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.